Hey YouTube, this is MIgardener back with your end of week 6 update, and we're going to merge this with the Q&A from this Tuesday. So let's get this thing started.
Okay, so we have a first question from Jewelry Maker. I have a question on getting chili pequin or pequin seeds to sprout and grow. I have a bush that I have been growing for years here in Texas, but would like to grow a couple more and have been harvesting seeds. I read somewhere that these seeds are very hard to sprout without using saltpeter and water mixture. I know this plant is native to southern climates, but would like to hear your input on this. That's
a really good question. However, I've never grown these pequin peppers, but one thing that I do know is that they do like dry arid soil. So when you're going to start growing, you want to make sure that they have a nice watering schedule. Also, don't start them in that salt thing you were explaining about. What was it? The saltpeter water mixture. Anything with salt will cause the cell membrane of the plant to shrivel up and die. Because if you take a saltwater fish and put it in fresh water, it's going to die. Same thing happens with a freshwater plant. Every plant cannot live in salt water, unless of course like a mangrove tree, but who's growing those? So just avoid the salt at best. But if anyone else knows what peter is, put it in the comment box below, and hopefully that can answer your question as well. Next question.
Okay. We actually have two questions from one Wolf Girl 300. I have two questions. I don't have much space because I have a hill in my backyard, and the only space I have right now is only getting morning sun, if any. Do you think terracing the hillside would be a good idea? It would get full sun, but it might get too much rain.
Personally with me, I would not terrace a hill that has a slope any steeper than 80 degrees, because that's going to cause a lot of runoff. Also, you have to get an ordinance from your state. I know in Michigan, you might not where you live, but in Michigan, we have to get a permit to prevent erosion. So I personally would try to avoid terracing, but if you have no other option, you want to make sure that the terrace is at least a 6-foot plane. So you have the hill, and then 6 feet, and then the other hill. That way any soil that comes up from the upper terrace won't wash out your plants below. Also, when you put a terrace in, you want to put a heavy gauge mesh wire on the bottom of the terrace to keep any soil and rocks and stuff from rolling down if that happens. Next question.
Okay, and her second question is, would there be an easy way to keep rain off of it?
Well, rain kind of falls everywhere, so unless you're planning on making like a massive overhead cover, that's almost impossible. But one way you can keep it from runoff, which is what I think you meant is runoff, you can build what they call, they're kind of like ditches. They're hard to explain. They're culverts, kind of, but they just run off on each side of the hill, and you have a main gathering pool, and it basically just runs the water off so it doesn't run onto your garden. So hopefully that answered your question, and if I didn't completely answer it correctly, just tell me, and I'll try to get that in the next video, and I'll try to answer that for you, or I'll reply to your comment. So next question.
Alright, our next question is, what's Emma doing? I think I got that right. So anyway, the question is, can you pollinate pumpkins with pollen from any other plant, such as zucchini, courgette, etc.? My pumpkins have a flower that is about to open tomorrow, but I don't have any male flowers. Typical. I don't want to lose the opportunity.
That is a really good question that a lot of people actually overlook. Anything that is in the pumpkin family can be, or vice versa, can be pollinated with its family plant, such as zucchini, squash, gourds, watermelon, and really all you have to do is take a wet Q-tip or a paintbrush, kind of swab the stamen of the plant. The stamen is those little stalks that come out from the inner flower, and that holds the pollen. and you just kind of swab that and take it over to your pumpkins or whatever plant you're trying to pollinate, and put that right in the female plant, and that should do it. Just make sure that you're not going to take the seeds and grow them next year, otherwise you're going to have some totally freaky weird plant that will probably be pretty undesirable to have. So just make sure you don't save the seeds, but if it's just temporary, yeah, that'll work. Okay. Next question.
Our next question is from Garden Gnome 55712. I am losing plants to this mold. It is a yellow mold and a fuzzy mold growing on my peat pots. Help.
That's a really easy fix. Well, the plant or the mold that you have growing is called mycelia. It's derived from low air circulation and damp soil conditions. One way you can fix this is by repotting into a more well-drained soil, or you could just decrease the soil moisture by watering less. Or what we do is we have a fan, and of course it's not running right now because it's really noisy, but when we're not videotaping, we have a fan that circulates almost 360 degrees to get all the plants with good air circulation so mold does not grow. Next question.
Well, we have 3 questions from Angry Owen. The first one is, what is the best plants to grow in Georgia?
That's a pretty broad question, but Georgia is really good for growing plants. It's an ocean bordering state, so you got a lot of humid air and a lot of warmth, and you get a ton of sun because it's really close to the equator. Also, it has really fertile soil. So a lot of things you can grow in Georgia are things that like lots of sun. Zucchini, corn, pumpkins, squash, potatoes, carrots. Stay away from leafy vegetables. They like partial shade and they'll bolt in the sun. So, of course, all of these vegetables need ample sunlight and ample space. So, to answer your question correctly, almost anything can grow in Georgia, but they need the right requirements to grow. So hopefully you have that, and hopefully that answers your question. Next question.
Okay. His second question is, what is your favorite gardening show?
I personally hardly ever watch TV, so to answer your question, I don't even have a favorite gardening show because I actually find I learn more from my own personal experiences and my own failures too as well. I mean, I learn more doing that than I would from any gardening show.
And as for me, I really don't watch very much TV either. We don't watch a lot of TV. When I do, I mean, I've watched the HGTV. I've seen tips more on the landscaping decorating side, but there is a book that Luke owns. It's actually a gardening book. I don't remember exactly. I think it's actually called The Garden Book.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
It's called The Garden Book, and it's about that thick, and it's like this big. It's a big book, and I've read that thing cover to cover. So I reference that if I have any questions I'd like to get answered. But I read books. I don't watch TV. That's just me. So.
Next question.
And his third question is, how much water should I give to a Brunsvigia?
I don't exactly know what a Brunsvigia is, so one of my 270 plus subscribers put a comment in the comment box below, but what I have researched is they like arid climates. So if you have stuff that lives in more of a dry, arid, desert-like climate, you want to water it on more of a sporadic schedule because they don't have water every week in the desert. And so I would venture to say probably once every 3 days. Of course, it starts wilting, maybe water it a little bit more. But with my experience of desert plants, it's not best to water them on a daily schedule because they actually end up dying. But, you know, like I said, I don't have any experience with that plant, so I'm just answering it to the best of my ability like I promised I would do. Now, someone else from your region might be watching and tuning in, so hopefully they're going to read this or answer this question and put it in the comment box below to help you out more. So thank you very much for the question. Sorry I couldn't help you out anymore, but next question.